Well, all I can say, ladies and gentlemen, is some of the language shocked me. So, right, we're live now. Right, everybody, best behaviour. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's Interesting Modelling Co. Sunday Night Live. As you can see, back by popular demand is the bell.
Me!
Also back is Mr. Drew Manson. We're going to try tonight. We're going to try and do the kind of news review thing, but we're going to try it in this format and see where we go. We're just shaking things up a bit. See, keep it fresh, keep it lively. So, gentlemen, if that is at all applicable in any sense of the phrase, how have you all been this week?
All right. Yeah, not too bad at all. Gently still plugging along on the Model Civic Mirage 3. But yeah, nothing to report of any significance since, when was the last time we were on? Wednesday, yes. Over to Spence.
No, nothing really. I spoke on Wednesday about the Chieftain that I'd completed, and I spoke at extraordinary length yesterday, doing a live broadcast that seemed to last about a month, which I only expected to do it for like half an hour, and it was an hour and a half. So I apologise to everybody. I'm continuing with my desire to remember the name Zukimura, which is very, very important.
I think it's very good that you remembered it this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I'm hoping tonight that my broadband doesn't do what it did the other night and have a bit of a fit and go down. So if anybody's expecting me to get through the next hour without any break in intermissions, I hope that your confidence is not misplaced, because it was a bit of a poor show on Wednesday on the technology front. So, but apart from that, nothing really. And also I posted that my desk is completely clear. I don't even know what I'm going to do next. I have that much idea. So answers on a postcard too. Do you know? I know I ought to do that. That ought to be the one that I complete next. That will complete the set. Really, that's the final model within the cluster of ones for the summer. I don't know. I fancy doing something a little bit more involved. And at the moment, I'm sort of in the mind to scratch build a pre-World War I monoplane.
Just absolutely stunned into silence there.
Yeah, it's just like, where do you go? Where do you go from there? Really?
Well, I have a set of plans, and I thought, well, that seems pretty straightforward to do. So I kind of thought that I might, if I'm so absorbed with the idea, I might scratch build a little 48 scale monoplane.
Pretty straightforward how a lot of your projects start, aren't they?
Yes, the only thing that's sort of slightly putting me off doing this, apart from the fact that it's obviously a pre-war monoplane, is that I don't really have any pictures of the inside of it. So that might be something that I think about. But also, I'm going to finish the book. I'm going to finish the
book.
Yeah, I think I need to finish. I need to finish the book off really and get that done and get the PDF and everything ready for that. So this week coming will be all about getting that first book that's been kind of running collaboration with you guys, with the hobby company, and with everybody that sort of followed the series. That's what I need to do really, so that the first of the books will be done this week, ready to be.
Well, let's say hello. We've got let's say hello to our fans, and we like to think of them as our fans. Let's say hello to Tony McEwen, M. Paul Lloyd, Dave Fleming, Pavel Koropovitz. Sorry if I got that wrong, Pavel. Andy Brennan, Dave Fleming again. Apparently there's two of them. Jerry Doyle, Mike Williams, Greg Woodbridge, Bradley Chun, Johan Oliver, Andy Brennan, and that's quite a collection for tonight.
That's quite a collection. Hi. Good evening all.
It is. Thank you for joining us. It's very kind of you to give up your Sunday evening to watch this. So
have these people just not got anything better to do than see the three semi-middle-aged men wittering on about the wonderful hobby of model making?
In fairness, we haven't. So
no, that is very true.
I think, in fairness, by watching us, it makes them feel better. So
yes,
absolutely. I actually got out of the house last week.
Andy Farmer's here.
Oh,
That's
right,
really
and the boss is here.
Andy.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. I actually got out of the house this week and went to Frome. And I know what you're thinking. There's a very good model shop in Frome. And so what cake did I have? Well, I had a lovely carrot cake at the Settles restaurant on Cheap Street, which I know you two know quite well.
We do.
Indeed, we have caked there.
And
We
it was,
have.
and I picked up some bits and pieces of the shops. Nice to get out. Nice to go to Frome. I haven't been there since Christmas last year, so it was, just nice to kind of the drive and everything. It felt cathartic in many
especially
respects.
with the way things are going. It might be the last time you get a chance to for a while again with the way
Well,
things
this
are
was the
currently
thing. I was
going.
the fact that I've got my MOT coming up on the 24th of October, and I've no idea whether she's going to scrape through or not. Plus, possibly, not knowing if there's going to be another imminent lockdown. I thought, if I don't do it this Friday, when am I going to do it?
Funny thing is, actually, I was slightly jealous about this because somebody had posted up. I think it might have been Ivan that posted up that he'd been to a local model shop that's just opened. Mike Jolly's model shop.
Yeah, he's
just opened one, hasn't he? And I said to him, I can't remember. I think that time we were in Frome is the last time I walked into a model shop. No, it's not actually. I tell a lie. I've been Antics in Bristol.
Yeah.
That was but before that was Frome. So I've been, but I've actually stepped foot in a model shop twice in about 3 years because we don't have it. We don't have any around here. We have sort of hobbycraft. But also that the Frome Model Centre was the first of two occasions when the paparazzi photographed us swapping money for paid advertising. I seem to remember.
Absolutely, because we are absolutely corrupt.
Completely. There was obviously the one on the steps of the model shop. I didn't even see the photographer coming then. And then there was that appalling one that was taken whilst we were having a meal in the Crown in Wells.
Yeah, that was nobody expected that, did they?
Absolutely appalling.
I think that was a £20 note as well. It wasn't.
I think it was literally money.
Yeah,
I will be bringing those photographs up at some stage.
Yes.
Let us crack on because we've got a lot of things to get through tonight. So, and I hope everybody's got their scripts ready so they can do their little segments. I'm going to kick off with, we've finally got hold of a copy of Italeri's Semavente M42 75/18, which we previewed on the show last week. Actually got a copy here now. And it's a very nice kit. I think the best way of describing it is typical Italeri. There's no frills. There's not any kind of innovative engineering in the way that you see sometimes with Tamiya and certainly with some of the kits like Takom and Ryfield and people like that. It's got a kind of rudimentary interior. You get 4 decal schemes in some very nice camouflage patterns, very nice decal sheet as well. And if we just go through, just quickly rattle through the sprue photographs here, you can see that the molding detail is actually very crisp and everything's nice and sharp. There is nothing much to dislike about this. There's a couple of things which we'll come to in a while, but you can see that, that's actually really quite neat.
I mean, in fairness to the kit, I mean, you said there's nothing particularly, groundbreaking about the way it's been produced or anything, but it's a collection of fairly flat shapes, isn't it? There's not a huge amount you can
precisely. I think
sometimes less is more, and a more basic construction will pay. They look really nice.
Yeah,
they look really nice.
I have to say, I'm just currently on the final lap of getting some paint onto the Sylvester Sherman. So this will be the next thing I'm working on. I would say there are one criticism and one observation. And I think there's a difference between the two. The one criticism I'd have of the kit is that the figures are not quite. They're not quite there. They're almost 70s Italeri figures. When you see the stuff that's being produced today by the likes of, Tamiya and Mini Art and Masterbox, ICM, all those companies, these are just a little bit...
They're a little bit soft around the edges, aren't they? There's some nasty stuff to remove there as well.
There is some nasty stuff to remove. Now, obviously with anything like figures is a decent figure can be ruined by a poor paint job. An average figure can actually be enhanced by a decent paint job, which is what we've seen with Spencer's Chieftain crew figures this week. So I'd say that's the crew figures. They may actually look much better once you actually start putting paint on them. So I think the fact that they're a little bit flashy and they've got all these.
I think if you went around the seams and like the belt and eked them out a little bit with a scalpel tip, I think that would help no end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Possibly.
So, like I say, that is about the only criticism I would level at this kit. They're not as bad as some of the 70s figures, which some of them just they barely look human. These are passable. Let's put it that way. But that was it. The other thing, the observation I'd make is that of the 4 schemes you get in the kit, they are 4 rather involved schemes.
They're beautiful,
aren't they? I like that one. Oh, I like that one.
They are beautiful. I think I would have liked to have seen just an overall plain sand one for people who want a slightly easier option. I've been on my walk back this evening. I was mentally trying to work out how I would actually paint one of these schemes because
it's interesting that they've actually highlighted the difference between sprayed and hard edge. That's really that's nice. But option D, I think, is option D makes me want to build it.
I think the obvious way to do it with the sprayed ones would be to paint it as a green and red brown camouflage. And then line out the edges. I think that would be the way to do it. That one you're showing now, that would just be red, brown, and green, and then just have very small areas of sand over the top of that. Because it actually looks like they've defined, unless they've done that from a weathering point of view, which I don't think they have. It looks like that sand is actually there's 4 colours on that.
Yeah, there's 2 sand colours, isn't there?
There is. Yeah,
so I think there's almost a dark tan and a pale sand colour.
Yeah, that's not actually called out on the instruction sheet. So I get the feeling that may actually be weathering. I'm not entirely sure, but
that's enough to make me want to build that kit. I like that.
And also, if you were to layer over dust layers over the top of that, the definition between those colours would soften quite a lot. Anyway, the other one, I would imagine that it would be a degree of kind of masking and then hand painting of those sand stripes. Or you could be completely bonkers and spray the whole thing in sand and then just hand paint all of the green and brown splotches with Vallejo.
Yeah, I also thought of could I spray the green and the brown, then put blue tack down and then spray the sand. Honestly, I have gone through a myriad of methods of doing this. But as I say, it's just an observation that I think an overall sand one would have been helpful for modelers who perhaps want something a little bit more direct.
They haven't provided any beginners schemes, have they?
No, and
actual the kit looks fairly simple. The finishing is going to be a bit more involved. Having said that, if somebody presented me with a built kit and said paint that, I'd be pretty happy.
I think that's an interesting challenge, actually. And let's face it, if you can do this kind of camouflage on an SM79, you can probably do this kind of camouflage on a 35th scale.
Oh yes, without a doubt.
Yeah. The other thing is, it does come with my copy's actually got 2 sets of gluable tracks. So I'm not sure what the story is there, but they are gluable. They're rubber bands, but they are gluable.
I have to say, having had a look at the photographs that you posted today, other than the figure, which I can't say I'm overly thrilled by, the kit looks nice. Having seen sort of both the Tamiya and the original Italeri versions, this is a step up for them, and it looks to be really nicely molded. And the detail inside, the interior detail looks great, I think.
As irrelevant as it is in the scheme of things, I really like the box art.
Yes,
I think it's a really, really nice piece of box art.
Oh, you do get a nice little photo etch fret with some details on there and some number plates and things. So it's as soon as this clears the workbench, then the Sempervente will be progressing, and its progress will be detailed on the Interesting Modelling Co. web Facebook page as well. So
interesting to see that photo etch. The Photomechanica, is that going to be Italeri's kind of go-to etching company now. That's an outsourced product. It looks really nice.
Yeah,
they're presumably not doing their own in-house, although it's got their logo on it. But seeing
I would imagine so. Yeah,
logo on that, but that looks to be really nice. So I think that's quite impressive.
Yeah.
So overall, I think this is a nice package.
Dave Fleming says price for the M42. That's a very good question, and I'm just going to look it up on the Jadland website. So bear with me a second. So talk amongst yourselves for a while.
No, we're going to wait expectantly and put pressure on you to find the price.
They've got the old one here. Oh no, that's the old one.
I'm sure I've seen this advertised. E-Models had one of these, and I'm sure they said it was something like £33-34, something like that.
I would imagine it's going to be something. I'm sure Mr. Farmer will correct us on a price at some stage.
Yeah, which seems reasonable. In fact, I think from the E-Models advert that came through, they had it listed at 35, 36, but I think they kind of reduced it down. But that's about ballpark now, isn't it? I
think that's a reasonable price for
absolutely.
Like that. I don't see a problem with that.
But no, I'm very impressed with it, and I really am looking forward to actually cracking on with it and working out how I'm going to do the paint scheme. But so we've got that. Excellent stuff.
So are we, and we'd like to see it finished by the end of next week. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah. Right.
Well, the Sherman's been primed for a week, so.
Right, Mr. Manton. Come on. What would you like to talk about next?
Well, I believe the one that you picked up off my page yesterday is the Model Collect A12 Avenger 2. Yes. An aeroplane that seems to have a sort of prolonged interest for modelers and aviation enthusiasts, especially as it was cancelled nearly 30 years ago now. Yeah. It was 1991 this aircraft was cancelled, intended as a stealthy replacement for the Intruder. There's a little bit of RAF interest there because it was also talked about for a while as a Buccaneer replacement, which was clearly never going to happen, but they like to chuck these ideas with any new American aircraft out. But a tremendously interesting design, but just kind of got away from McDonnell Douglas and General Dynamics, and it was eventually cancelled by Dick Cheney in 1991, and led to an extremely messy 23, 24 years of litigation before it was finally, that long, 2.5 decades of litigation before they finally settled in about 2014. But yeah, it was seemingly, it went from a project that was on the go and we were expecting a first flight within a year to completely cancelled, dead, and litigation. But a big, as you can see, stealthy flying Dorito was its nickname. It's been kitted in 72nd scale and 48 scale, I think, in resin over the years. But this is one of those the first injection molded one I'm aware of. Very odd choice for an aircraft that never flew, but then we've seen numerous Luftwaffe what ifs over the years, haven't we? So presumably Model Collective have seen a niche in the market, and the CAD renders look great. It was announced about 3 or 4 years ago and has been sort of on the back burner since. Now, interestingly, Model Collective just announced that they've got their own production facilities now. They're not outsourcing any of the production and tooling, so they're doing all that in-house. So this was chosen as one of their first in-house aircraft kits. And they said that because because of the shapes, it makes it easier for them to add detail to it and to sort of troubleshoot their design and production methods for all in-house work. I mean, there's a lot of subtleties about the shape, but it is essentially 2 flat surfaces and a big triangle. So,
but it looked like the sort of thing that a Lippish, and if you got a Lippish and a Horton Flying Wing together and they had a baby, that's what that thing would look like.
Yes, and it's just it's UFO, isn't it? It is,
yeah.
But there was nothing. There didn't seem to be anything inherently wrong with the design as it was going on. It was just the price was just going into the stratosphere, and Dick Cheney was basically saying, "You have to justify why you want this, or I'm going to cancel it." And they could never readily, at the end of the day, justify the expense. So he just stroked of a pen.
justify the expense. Look at it.
yeah.
Yes. Look at it.
No, just look at it. Look, we want
Stop
hundreds of these.
cancelling the cool-looking aeroplanes.
I have to say, I'm very much on the other side of this coin, as you would imagine. I just find it appallingly boring to look at.
I'm not terribly interested in it as an aeroplane. I have to.
I'm super excited. Take my money.
I think we've had this. I think we've had this discussion relatively recently about some of these kind of stealthy prototypes, haven't we, and how they look. But it just doesn't have any character to it, does it? It's sort of one of those, really.
Just as an interest, Andy Farmer's saying the sum of NT is £35. So
thank you, Mr.
Farmer.
There we go. Yes, thank you, Mr. Farmer. So, I have to say, looking at this, I know this is going to drive Drew wild because he doesn't like folded wings, but I have to say, if they do a folded wing option in the kit, that's how I'm going to be doing my Dorito. Look, actually, it looks more like an envelope there, but
yeah. Doesn't it?
But I've always been fascinated by the A12, and you know what it's like with cancelled prototypes. They tend to take on these almost kind of messianic qualities sometimes.
Yeah, there's kind of it takes on a mythos of its own, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it should be said, there was a lot of stuff that came out of that program that went on to other programs. The engines were the F414. They ended up in the Super Hornet. And I think I'm right in saying that at some point, some of the US Marines Night Attack FA-18Ds, the twin-seaters, the weapons control stick in the rear cockpit was actually from intended production A12 side sticks. So they these were all made in there, and there's no use for them. So they ended up getting shifted onto the McDonnell Douglas, or Boeing as it was at the time. So if we can use them, we'll put them in the Hornet as the Night Attack variant for the radar intercept officer in the back to use. So
I do believe that there is a full scale mock-up. I think it was this one is actually on display in a museum now.
It was about 4 or 5 years ago. I think they finally allowed it to be pulled out, and I think it's undergoing some sort of restoration because it's wood. You know, the mock-up is made of wood. It's literally a overall shape sort of mock-up, and I think it was only about 4 or 5 years ago they declassified it to the point where they said, yes, you can have this and put it on display. So it's an interesting. I'm interested in the history more than I am the model, if that makes sense. It's not a model I could ever see myself buying. You know, if one came across my desk for review, I'd happily review it, but I'm not. It's not something I would spend my own money on.
Well, we can't all be right all the time. So,
and also interesting at what sort of colour schemes you would have on his esprit de corps would be very difficult to throw on this thing when it's got no tails.
I've seen this discussed, and I think it would go back to the same as the B2. You'd be using the undercarriage doors and stuff like that for any sorts of markings. But yeah, it's the flying wings do not make great canvases. It has to be said.
It would look good in shadow markings and painted in metallic and blue.
Yes.
But they'd all be pale grey, and that would be the end of it.
Awesome.
Be interesting to see how it appears, though, isn't it? Because we will start to see these models built.
Yeah, I'm interested in the model from a technical point of view. I'm just not really interested in having. Having said that, we're at 72nd scale. My interest might be piqued a bit more because it's a big aeroplane.
Yeah,
it's a big aeroplane, and so I kind of think if it was 72nd scale, much as I hate to be that person, but I'm going to be, I would probably have more interest in the aircraft. And 48
if only it was 24th.
Yeah.
Right. Don't make me hit the bell. But right.
You know, in 48 scale, it's just going to be it's just going to be a big triangle, isn't it? It's just there's too much.
Talking of big. Mr. Pollard.
Indeed. Moving on to something that isn't all flat surfaces. Trumpeter are just about to release what they colloquially describe as an ICBM, which is this thing here. Actually, this is a Topol M that's on an MZKT 79221 transporter. This thing is absolutely vast. Imagine screwing together 2 Scud launchers end to end and then putting on a massive rocket tube. you
that's
get
the
an
8-axle
idea of.
variant.
Pardon?
That's the 8-axle variant, isn't it?
Yeah, you get an
Yeah.
idea of just how big this thing is. We scaled out. This model, it's going to be 35th scale. This model is going to scale, sort of measure somewhere in the region of about 65 centimeters in length, end to end. So it's going to be it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Trumpeter have got a history of producing these massive Russian vehicles. They've already produced coastal missile vehicles, the 3K60 BAL. They've produced the S300V with a radar array on the top of it. They've produced the S400. So this isn't anything new. This just happens to be the biggest of all of the ones that they've produced so far. We've seen images of the what looks like a test build of this vehicle, which you can kind of see on here. But there have been some coloured CAD images as well that we've also seen that have been published. I would imagine that there will be a number of features that will sort of dominate this particular race. One will be cost. The smaller vehicles
get a 200 quid on it.
I would imagine so. The smaller vehicles are well over £100. So I would think you would be looking at late hundreds, maybe even towards £200 for this thing.
It's colossal, isn't it?
It is huge. I've seen one of these built up in 72nd scale, and it's big in that scale.
And that's a 7-axle variant as well.
It is, yeah. The other thing about this is it's going to be extraordinarily complex in terms of a box of tricks that you're going to assemble. There's no getting away from this. Having built some of these trumpeter kits, the T90 in particular, I put together, there were nearly 1,000 parts in that. I would imagine this is going to be way beyond that kind of thing. And then once you've put this thing together, then you've got the trick of painting it and doing all of that, and the camouflage schemes that go alongside that. It is a massive project, however you spin this, and it's going to be a massive kit as well. We have seen these built. We've been to shows where these have been on display. The three of us have all been to the Avon show, and there was a guy there who had on display almost all of the Trumpeter Russian trucks, the big ones, and they make for a dominating presence on a display.
Well, they're generally, Trumpeter and Hobby Boss for that matter, generally are more likely to bring their A game to armor and trucks and stuff. So they're actually beautiful models as well, in fairness.
Absolutely. I mean, this is one of those vehicles that I would love to put together, and have a crack at it, just for the sheer size of it. Although the idea of going out and spending 200 quid is,
I think we'd be breaking out the big Iwata for that one, John.
I think we would. I tell you what, I built, this is going back 25 years or more now. I actually built the Dragon Scud when it came out. And when that came out in the early 90s, I think it was something like about £20. It wasn't actually massively prohibitively expensive. But I do remember, I do remember people at the time saying, is this the largest 35th scale model ever produced? Which technically, if you don't count the Max Dragon Wagon, no, I think the Dragon Wagon, that was only the cab, wasn't it? But technically, it was one of the largest 35th scale models ever produced. But as you say, this is effectively almost two of them.
It's been completely outstripped by these newer releases. There's no two ways about that. I would imagine as well that certain resin companies are already sharpening their pencils over the idea of creating a full set of additional
Can you imagine
wheels for these
the Voyager models etch set that's going to come to it? It's just going to be monstrous. I mean, it's going to be up around the kind of etch sets we see for 350th scale ships, isn't it? It's
absolutely.
It's going to be absolutely monstrous.
And I think as well that it will be one of those 35th scale replicas once you start factoring in things like resin wheels and photo etch and all of that sort of stuff. That's a once once in a lifetime project. It's
Yeah,
that
I mean,
big in terms of
it's the sort of thing that somebody's going to sit down for 8-9 months, isn't it, and just have that on their bench, and that's it, and that's going to be their project for the year.
Absolutely.
But I will say, if people want any inspiration, go on YouTube and just type in Topple M launch, and just watch some of the YouTube video of this vehicle in action, because the launch, it's a really strange. It's got a soft launch system, so the ICBM actually clears the launch tube in a soft launch. It's very, very quiet, and then the main rocket motor ignites. And it's spectacular to watch. It really is.
And the other thing as well is that there's looking through and doing some research on this afternoon. There are support vehicles for this thing as well. So whether or not they're going to go the whole hog and do the entire set, that would look kind of magnificent. As you imagine a diorama that's basically like a sort of a military display or something. I kind of see this thing there with the support vehicles and then crowds of photographers and
with two little figures of Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd.
Spice Like Us.
Spice Like Us.
Spice Like Us.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. Okay.
I think it's become patently obvious now that your film knowledge from you two and my film knowledge are so far apart that
John, I defer to John, definitely. My film knowledge is just based on what John makes me watch when I go up to his place.
or education, as I call it. Right. That's right. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, tonight is that rare occasion. Tonight is a mini art free zone.
I did notice that and thought this is just they've replaced mini art with me.
Now, mini art.
Were we just not trying this week?
Well, I think mini art thus far.
No, I don't mean about you. I mean about mini art. Although
there's nothing stood out this week, but we've often said with mini art that a new mini art release, we've described it as kit of the year. You know, this comes out, pianos, kit of the year.
Indeed.
The musical instrument set, kit of the year. However, I think we may have a contender here for kit of the year. And let's put the kettle on for Bandai, because they are releasing a 1-to-1 scale cup noodle.
Just sanity, isn't it? It's just
now.
No.
Well, I don't know about you, but I think that is. I mean, people say that. Oh no, not another Spitfire, not another Phantom. Well, there you go. There's a 1-to-1 scale cup noodle. Fill your boots. It has to be said, of course, being Bandai, that they bring their extremely innovative engineering to it, which we've seen on their Gundam kits. In this case, it's molding sprue segments in different colors. It's
a cutaway. Oh,
yeah, cutaway. So you get to see the noodle innards as well. And
is it just me that feels slightly uncomfortable with the idea of that cutaway?
It does look a bit kind of H.R. Geiger, doesn't it?
It does look a bit intestinal, doesn't it?
Yeah, intestinal, I must admit. But I have to say that
you want it, don't you?
Well,
oh Lord,
of course he does.
Oh Lord,
I'll have either this or a Model Collect A12 for Christmas. Thank you very
much.
John,
some things are made in Japan and should stay there.
Couldn't you just? I'm not being overly critical of a 1-to-1 scale pot noodle, but couldn't you just make this yourself by buying a pot noodle and then putting a plastic circle inside it and resting the ingredients on and just PVAing them in place and painting them?
What a killjoy.
Why would you paint them?
Unbelievable.
Could you not? Well, presumably if you put water in and it just went off, it would look, mind you, that could be like a sort of a living model then, couldn't it? You could watch it decompose.
Right, we're just going to convene the panel. It's a no from me.
It's an extraordinarily strong no from me as well.
But you are looking at this from the perspective of bitter, middle-aged male modelers who like to build aircraft and tanks and things and whatever. Just to think of the mass market of people who perhaps don't want to build another Panther, but do want to build a cup noodle.
What next? You know,
what next?
Bar,
well,
you know.
So somebody's working on a conversion kit to turn it into a bowl of ramen as we speak.
Somebody is going to complain that it's the wrong flavour. Oh, why wasn't it? Why wasn't it beef noodle rather than chicken noodle? Anyway, let us
Just
move
because
on.
you can doesn't mean you should. I think
Well,
is the
isn't that Jeff Goldblum for Jurassic Park that he says just because your scientists could do that doesn't mean that. And I'm not going to do my Jeff Goldblum because I'll get into trouble.
No, please
So
don't.
yeah, see, it's a lot of fans out there for the cup noodle. So obviously you two are in the minority. Drew,
Really?
Drew, let us move on.
Really?
Let us move on, please. To
No, we're not finished yet. We've got this has got legs.
No,
and noodles.
absolutely. We have to know who it is that wants a model of a cup noodle.
Well, I think let's just say they're not rejecting it. Perhaps I'm reading too much into it.
That isn't entirely the same
Were
thing.
you perhaps over-egging the cup noodle pudding?
It was an
There's a load of metaphors for you.
Exactly, yeah. I think perhaps this has gone off the boil now. So let us move on.
It's food for thought, though, isn't it?
It's food for thought, absolutely.
And now something with a completely different flavour.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, so Italeri re-releasing the 72nd scale B52H, which is the AMT kit from 1992-93 sort of time period. Released as a B52G and an H. It has to be said, in fairness, it wasn't AMT's finest hour. They made I've seen this kit built up on numerous occasions. I do love that scheme, though. Oh, lordy, that's a nice scheme. I've seen this kit built up on numerous occasions, and it does actually build up really, really nicely. That said, there are some accuracy issues with it. They modelled it with the wings in the in-flight position, which you will never see on a B-52 on the ground, clearly, because it's not in flight. Which I think Paul Boyer in Scale Model did a conversion to modify the wing to show it on the ground position, because the wings do droop an awful lot on the ground, but it starts at the fuselage, and you need to do a lot of work to make it represent that. And also, I believe I'm right in saying the TF33 engine nacelles are about 30 to 35% undersized. They're actually about the same size as the earlier J47, J48 engines, which you can see there. They're quite clearly, they do look significantly undersized. But like I say, it's easy to be critical of something because it doesn't meet our standards. But as a reboxing, plenty of people are going to buy this kit because big kits seem to have achieved their own sort of marketability over recent years. People like building big kits, so people are going to see this on the shelves and want a big B52 and build it and be perfectly happy with the result. I don't think it's of terrific amount of interest to the enthusiast sector of the market, but then you could argue that's not where it's perhaps aimed.
What are the alternatives out there?
Well, the alternatives really at the moment are the Model Collect kit, which has Model Collect have released a B52G and H. And they've got a B52D coming along. Now, it's been one of these things where we've spoken about Model Collect already this evening, and we've spoken about them in the past, and they kind of they make a progression with each kit, and with even different variants from the same mold. So people pointed out a lot of errors with the B52G that they initially released, and they've done an awful lot of correction for the B52H, which means that it's still not perfect, but getting there. But the point is, Model Collect, you're not going to go into your hobby zone or anywhere like that and pick up the Model Collect kit.
No,
you know, it's far more of an enthusiast proposition, if you like. You have to search that kit out. You have to know where to go. You're not going to find it in hobby zone. So the kit doesn't really interest me because I know of its limitations and I know there is a better option out there. But for those, it's probably going to be, I think, probably £50 or £60, I would think. And it's a very, very large model. So if it's aimed at the niche in the market that I presume it is, there's no reason why it shouldn't sell just fine.
Mhm.
And also, we've discussed on this program and our midweek program as well many times box art, and I'm with you. That box art would certainly get the juices flowing, wouldn't
Yeah,
it? And that colour scheme with the stripes on it is really lovely.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the I like this the PSYOP scheme, the original sort of two greens and a brown
Yeah.
scheme that SAC Aircraft had. I think it's a beautiful camouflage scheme, as beautiful camouflage schemes get.
Yeah.
And it kind of it piques my interest from that perspective alone. So it's easy to be sniffy about models from the perspective of the enthusiast stroke professional side, if you like. But you have to stand back and look at where where these things are targeted, who they're aimed at,
and also if maybe one of us was to build it, and let's say we do the corrections on the wings. I agree that would be there would be a certain degree of cutting to get those fillets droop down so the wings drop onto the floor. But paint that in a nice colour scheme and put it on a table, and I'm sure it would still command attention because of the sheer size of it.
It's an enormous aeroplane. It's a big imposing aeroplane. Not only is it a big imposing aeroplane, but it is one of those that has passed into common identification. Like, in the same way that people know what a Vulcan looks like, people tend to know what a B-52 looks like, no matter whether they're an aviation enthusiast or not.
Yeah.
If you show them a photograph of a B-52, they're going to know what a B-52 is. So it's got that kind of cachet. And
it's sort of one of those projects you think, I'd really like to do that, until you sort of realize the logistics of building one of those. But certainly every time I see photographs, and we see a lot in this country, don't we? We see a lot of photographs of them transiting in and out of Fairford. You think, I really want to build one of those.
Yeah, they're always visiting us, B-52s. They're every couple of times a year they tend to deploy 4 or 6 of them here, and they've conducted an awful lot of combat operations from the UK as well. Over Iraq, they were based in the UK, and actually an old friend of mine was actually working on them there back then.
I remember Alan Furbank saying to me that he'd seen a load of B-52s leaving Fairford with all the bomb racks full of bombs, and then he watched them come back with all the bomb racks empty, and his comment to me was, somebody must have really got it, and
somebody's got a pasting there.
Absolutely. But
I think we have to not be too sniffy about kits like this, because they have a targeted market, and it's not us. But
no, absolutely, and it will sell well.
That doesn't mean it's not a perfectly viable and sensible choice to release.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Now, nobody can accuse us of being partisan on this show.
Can you just hit the bell? Hit the bell.
Hit your own bell.
Hit your own bell.
But
yes,
Mr. P, this set this set actually is here in the workshop, and it is actually winging its way to you, and it is.
Italeri have re-released Esche's set of Partisan figures, as you can see on here. Set of 6 figures released in the 70s as part of the Esche range. It was one of those sets that offered modelers at the time something slightly different from the normal soldiers that were available from the likes of Italeri, also Esche as well, Tamiya. This was something a little bit unusual. It was like a crossover figure set. This figure set was at the time was seen as being a bit of a standout as well, because these were all characters within this. Even today, somewhat 40 years on, probably almost from when these were released, they've still got a lot of character about them. I had a look at the pictures of these, and in terms of the faces and the way that they're sculpted, they're sculpted with a kind of almost like a broad stroke, but they look kind of, I kind of like them.
They look like civilians.
Yes,
they look like civilians, which is
and
exactly what they are.
Yes, they've got that kind of scruffy look to them, which I really like, and I do think that I mean, this one in particular, the way that this is sculpted, the way that her face is, she's recognisably a woman. But also, I like the way that the blouse has been sculpted. I like the way the button almost looks like it's kind of. It just also the undercuts around the clothing and everything. I think they still look great to me. And I think that these will be really interesting figures to paint up. Also, interestingly, this figure here. If John drops the pictures down just for a second, this figure was actually used in one of Francois' dioramas.
Yeah, I know the one. I know exactly the one you're going to do.
If I show you wherever this is.
This
one here.
Yeah,
this one. So the guy throwing the Molotov cocktail is actually this guy here in the photograph. So it sort of fits in as well with my sort of area of interest. If I take up the pages I've just dropped all over the floor. So it's nice to see these figures reappear, I think, and I would imagine that because it's going to be part and parcel of the Italeri range, that they will be readily available, which is something that can't be said of the Eschi figures. But I do like them. I'm not sure how they'll assemble. It's impossible to say just from the pictures, and I've never had this set before, so I don't know. But I'm thinking that with a little bit of TLC and some cleaning up, maybe some work around some of the folds and sharpening up some of the detail, I think these figures will look pretty good. And I like, from what I've seen of the pictures, I think the anatomy is good as well. Yeah. So many of the figures that you see from that period, the anatomy is a bit off. But these look like they were almost like they were sculpted by proper figure sculptors and then placed within the range, in a similar way that the Airfix Multipose and the Airfix 54mm figures that were produced, the Napoleonic figures that they had, were sculpted by proper figure sculptors and then placed within the range. I think these will be a real success for Italeri, and I'm very pleased to see these reappear.
I really do love the way the woman's been sculpted. She's got that real sort of Eastern European, approaching middle age partisan look about her.
She really has,
it's just absolutely beautifully done. And I have to say, when John put up the original box art for the Italeri, for the Eschi boxing of it, that's just that. There's something about the box art from Eschi in that time period that just carries me back.
And it's fabulous as well that Italeri have used what is essentially the same file to create the box art. They haven't redrawn the figures. It's the same artwork that they've transposed onto their box, and I love the idea of that.
And they've also dropped on the box the Eschi logo.
The Eschi logo, absolutely.
Yeah, which means you go into a model shop and you can see the Eschi logo back on the shelves again. I think that to me puts a big broad smile on my face, because I am an unashamed Eschi fanboy. And
it makes you like Italeri a little bit more, doesn't it?
It does.
It really does, because it's a really nice. I think for many years Italeri were sort of reworking Eschi tools, especially the aircraft, and releasing them. And I think they've realised there's something to be said for reflecting on their sort of
lineage,
their origins, their lineage, and it's worth remembering Eschi for the force they were. Now they're no longer competitors.
There can't be too. They certainly seem to be working through the Eschi range at a pace as well. There can't be too many Eschi kits that either haven't been within the Italeri range or aren't about to be within the Italeri range, which is great. I mean, obviously there are notable exceptions, I'm sure, but it's great to see that Italeri are putting these kits out again, because for people like us of our generation, God, it makes it sound dreadfully old, but of our sort of, when we came up through the hobby, we've presumably built a lot of Eschi kits. I certainly built way more Eschi kits than I ever built Italeri kits. So to see them as part and parcel of that range, and why wouldn't they? It's two Italian companies who have now combined to bring out the best
Yeah,
of both worlds.
there's no competition there anymore. They're just
No.
part of the saying. I'd like to
Absolutely.
note that several people have noted my backdrop this evening, and thank you for
Yeah,
noting.
excellent. Sharp tonight. I have to say, I agree about the sculpting. When I was photographing these, I was really taken with how good they are for stuff from 40 years ago.
Yes.
And I think the one thing, again, another criticism I've seen of this set in the past and of the SG figure sets is you get people saying, oh, the figures are more like 1/32nd scale than 1/35th. And it's like, yeah, people are different sizes.
Do you know, I'm not having that really.
No.
We had this discussion before we came on air, and there was a lot of swearing involved, which we will not reduce it to that this time.
Because I think it's actually important. I think what one of the things that we've done in terms of figure modelling and in terms of dioramas is we've kind of homogenized sizing of figures within dioramas so that they all are at the same height, but you only have to look at any of the books from reference books from the Second World War, and you'll see people of kind of different heights and everything.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that becomes interesting is certainly for late war scenes where you've got big American GIs who were 6 foot plus, alongside smaller conscripted, if I can say that correctly, conscripted German soldiers who were very young, often, not even old enough to drink kind of thing, who were very much shorter. And there's some interesting pictures of those massive guys next to much smaller. And I think that's where the two things are. So 32nd scale, who knows? I don't think that's a problem. Unless the female figure that's in there, it scales out at 6'3". I think that they all are probably where they are now, where they need to be.
Talking of figures, we kind of fast forward to 2020. Now, this demonstrates really how far technology and figure modeling has gone, especially in recent times. This is a set announced by Zvezda this week. And this, would you believe, is 1/72nd scale.
Wow.
And it's a set of Soviet submachine gunners, and they appear now. These don't appear to be 3D scans. These actually appear to be kind of CAD molded. So it's like it looks like it's like a stock 3D mannequin in CAD, and then they've kind of sculpted and created them around it. But it has to be said, if these were 35th scale, in terms of the figures and the poses and the faces, you would be impressed. But these are 72nd scale.
The poses are fabulous, aren't they?
Aren't they? Absolutely staggering. And be very interesting to see this set when it does come out.
Yeah, I'd really like to see the set when it comes out, just to get up close and have a look and see how well those CAD renders have actually come out, because Zvezda are absolutely at the top of their game in terms of tooling these days. So I suspect they will look extremely impressive.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it anyway.
Do we know if these are multi-part figures or are they molded?
Yeah, they will be. They will be.
So that's an interesting thing, just to sort of see how whether they're separate arms, I guess.
No, these are for this is the war game system that Zvezda do, which is their it's called Art of Tactic. But there's absolutely nothing. Actually, a lot of their Art of Tactic stuff, they do it in 1/100th and 1/72nd scale. But the 72nd scale stuff is as good as standard 72nd scale kit. So there's no, people get a bit sniffy about, it's for war game. No, trust me, it's good stuff. It is really, really good stuff.
That would certainly make me. Those figures would make me want to build a 72nd scale diorama.
I have to say that the guy standing up with the cape on and the PPSH does look very. No, the other guy with the cape on, standing, on the right there. He does remind me very, very much of Death of Stalin, Jason Isaacs' Zhukov character. It looks very much like that, which is a fabulous film.
A fabulous film that we will watch as and when we can all reconvene together again.
Glorious film.
Yeah, they are fabulous though. They show the leaps and bounds that have been made within 72nd scale figures.
Now, another company that ironically never seems to actually is rarely off this channel. They're probably only second to Mini Art for popularity, and that's Dora Wings.
Yeah,
And
a couple of interesting little kits announced this week, haven't they? And they seem to be. I'm not sure what their release rate is currently, but the Blanca CH400 and it's such a pretty little thing, isn't it? And a great color scheme. They're very much a limited run, I would say, in execution. But at the higher end of limited run. So, I mean, that really makes me want to build that. Just the whole package, the way the package is put together, the box art, the subject. It's one of those subjects that I wouldn't consider myself interested in till I saw that box.
I have to say, because we've spoken a lot about these kits on this show, that when I was in Frome on Friday, I did actually manage to get hold of one of their little Percival Proctors. Of which the photographs I've put up on the page. And I was very impressed with that. To me, it just looked mainstream. It didn't look limited run. It just looked really, really kind of, mainstream kit.
I mean, I have to say personally, I've only got one Dora Wings kit myself. That is the
the block.
151C, which was the subject of a deeply amusing discussion between us all back in the day when I ordered it. You might seem to remember a mildly drunken
I do now. I was racking my brains as to where that came from.
Did you remember the mildly drunk discussion we had?
I very much remember that.
But I have to say, I was looking at the MB155 that they've since released last night and thinking, I want to order that more. I want to build that. The MS230, which is
that's great looking. Isn't
I
it?
like that.
Is very. That's a check. That's a check. I have to confess, I know nothing about this aeroplane at all. All I know is the MS230 would be the French one, and the C23 would be the Czech variant.
That's a model that would be very much at my friend Harris Ali's street. That's the sort of thing he would really love to tackle, I think.
And I think Dora Wings have got a very wide range of kits coming out, and they seem to be sort of upping their production rate a bit. The P43 Lancers have been released now, which I've seen one of those built up, which looks really, really nice. But they've got further boxings of that. They've got further boxings of the block. They've got another French fighter, that racer-looking thingy.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I know the one you mean. Yeah, is it the Codron?
Yes, one of the Codron kits. Yeah, one of the Codron aircraft. So it's difficult to know. I can't say too much about Dora Wings because my experience is limited to the one kit I've got and seeing their Facebook posts and stuff. But I think very much one of the companies from Ukraine, I believe, to be keeping an eye on. As we go forward, because they seem to be doing interesting subjects and executing them very well.
Yeah, they're carving a niche for themselves. I think's a good way of putting it.
Does the Proctor have etched?
Yeah, this was the thing that really surprised me, because mine was $13.99, and it does come with a quite comprehensive photo etch sheet and decals for 5 options. So it's up on the Facebook page. I put photographs up there. But they had Frome Model Centre had the 48 scale Proctor from Dora Wings. I think that was about 21 quid. And I didn't plump for that simply because I thought, I'll try a cheaper one first and then see how I get on with that.
Yeah, I mean, having looked at, that block I got was only £25, and that's 48 scale. Yeah. And I was looking at the MB155 last night, and that's only like £26, £27 I can get that for. And it's almost like click to order it on the spot, because it was like, oh, that's £10 or £15 less than I was expecting it to be. So yeah, very much a company to look and keep your eye on going forward. I see Andy is saying that the Art of Tactic range retail at under £5. Yeah. So for that, you could take a punt on that anyway, couldn't you? Just
is that all of the vehicles? They're all under £5, are they? All of within that range?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm sure Andy will put us right on that at some stage.
And Ian's saying he's building a couple of Dora Wings kits. instruction. Both. See, interesting could be good or bad.
Well, I will say
very non-committal.
the one observation I made about the Proctor was that beautiful decal sheet, some interesting color schemes, absolutely no guidance as to what the paint schemes are for the color callouts or anything. Really bizarre.
Wow.
So I'm just now you've piqued my interest in having a look. I mean, it's kind of like saying, you know, it's giving you a. Can you see that? That's not.
No, honestly, on the Proctor, nothing.
It's just
nothing
giving
at all.
you. But this is just giving you basic colours, but no actual detail on what the colours are.
I really think that you should build that, because that is.
I would really like to do the Vichy one with the stripes.
Yeah,
with the red and yellow stripes at some point. Yeah, Ian says there's a lack of colour call outs.
Yeah.
No, not on this. They are calling out the colours, but they're only saying this colour. They're not giving you any significant.
No, honestly, the Proctor, nothing at all. Rather bizarre, but never mind. I know what the colour schemes are, so I'm sorted. Shall we? This is the final pun for the night. Shall we rally round to the last item this evening?
I'm going to get a bell. I think it's only fair that we have our own bell.
You get a bell, I'll upgrade to a gong. I'm always going to be one step ahead of you. So
be like a 1970s drummer with a massive gong.
Yeah.
I will be Roger Taylor. Right.
Indeed. Moving on, we see this. This is the Mercedes-Benz 450 SLC, the rally version.
That's
of this
gorgeous,
car.
isn't it?
This is the 450 SLC, as many of you car guys will know. And we've got Mr. Hartop online, was produced between 1971 and the early 80s. This is the rally version of this car. And as you can see, this is another Eschi re-release. Or reissue within the Italeri range. This is there's two versions inside this, two cars. Number 6, which is Mikkola and Hertz's car, and then number 4, which is Torzelius and Valdegaard's car. You can see the decals there. Well, decal sheet also includes seat straps as well, which is good. The original kit was curbside, which almost all of Eschi's car kits were. In fact, I think all of Eschi's car kits were. So you're getting the basic body shell on this, a single part floor pan, and then an interior with wheels. Kit includes some chrome parts as well, which don't look to have aged quite as well as the rest of the plastic. Especially the grille work doesn't seem as crisp as you may want, but I would imagine that this would be a nice kit to build. Certainly from looking at the parts, I seem to remember that Eschi car kits were pretty well thought of back in the day. There was a large range of them, so to see this one being re-released,
that box art is just beautiful. Isn't it
is great.
Fantastic piece of artwork,
and also it would open up the possibilities for some really good weathering on this. This would be the sort of model that dust and dirt would kind of predominate, I think, and I really like the idea of seeing it built like that.
And now you know why I'm going to build one, because I've got one here in the workshop. And yeah, I mean, I when I was photographing the I've got to take some photographs, our own photographs. When I had a quick look at it today, and I thought, actually, I do quite like the look of this. And also because the color scheme is just kind of like overall silver, rather interesting there. Italeri quoting Tamiya paint colors, which is rather interesting. But because
that is interesting.
Yeah, because the car is overall silver, and because this is going to be a rally car, you are not having to worry about a concours finish like you would with a normal car. So I would say for somebody who is, say, like an aircraft or an armor modeler who wants to transition to making a car, this is great because, without being flippant, you can chuck a lot of that at it. And especially you were talking about the grill, right?
He's going to get us into so much trouble using this excuse.
But you look at that grill. Well, for starters, that grill is mostly hidden by the spot lamps anyway.
Yeah.
And even if that grill does have a little bit of, I can see there's a piece of like a little bit of flash or a little bit of webbing in between there, it just chuck some mud at it, just Let's do it.
I think I would be tempted to strip that down and remove that finish and then start all over again. I think, but this does look to be an interesting release. Seeing these rally cars appear like this, and something that's kind of simple as well. It's not overly complicated.
No,
you say not overly complicated, and the molding quality will be good on this kit as well, which is nice. But I do like the weathering possibilities. I think would be really good on this, and it's a fabulous looking car.
Oh, gorgeous!
It is. I mean, that seems to have been a bit of a theme with us over the last couple of months with the Lotus kits that are due to be released from Tamiya. But this is another look at it, for goodness sake.
That's proper 70s, isn't it? It's just
it absolutely is. Yeah.
Class and
the 70s was that era when BMW and Mercedes made really gorgeous cars. Really, really gorgeous cars. If I was forced to own a BMW or a Merc and I had a choice, it would be something from the 60s or the 70s before they became kind of like sales reps cars. So
yes, saw one of the new BMWs today with one of the new front grille. Ouch. So the SU car kits are lovely for their age. I'm waiting on the Ferrari 250 SWB kits to be released. There, I'm glad you've commented, Ian, because that's exactly my impression of these cars, and be interested to see what John does with his build and how that looks. But yeah, certainly.
Well, the funny thing was, I found some photographs the other day, and this was done about 10 years ago. It was for when Humbrol were launched their weathering powders range, and one of the things I was asked was just some models done using them. And one of the things we actually did was it was a Gash Scale Xtrix Ford Mexico rally car. It didn't work. They said, well, can you kind of like put some weathering powders on that, which is what I did. And yeah, it kind of, I tell you what, weathering cars, great fun. So, but yeah, that is, once I clear a gap in the schedule here of the 101 million things that I'm currently building, that will be progressing, because again, I know we've spoken about this before, that I do like to just suddenly have a complete sea change of building something. So, I've just building some armor at the moment. I've got to build the Semaventi after the Sherman, but I think after that it's going to be something. When I say sea change,
isn't that your Sherman, Drew?
Yeah,
my Sherman. Yeah.
Your Sherman is coming along really well, Drew. It's started coming along a lot quicker than you were building it.
I'm glad my skills didn't let me down this time.
Let us conclude tonight with an update from Italeri on the Tornado GR4, and we are hoping to get hold of a copy of one of these very, very soon so that we can give you a proper critique of it, because there have been some comments about, are the stores correct for a GR4? Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But
can I interject here?
Go on.
Can I interject here? If this kit turns out, as these images appear to make it look, this will be Italeri's finest kit ever.
Okay.
This will be. I'm not interested in a 30-second scale Tornado, but I'm rapidly becoming very interested in this.
Well, as you can see, they're including an engine. You get all the flappery and slattery is all separate. They've included rubber parts for the wing seals as well, which is going to be interesting. Photo etch bits as well. A decal sheet that does look to be quite good. I'm going to be uber critical because I do know my Tornado, so that will be scrutinized massively when it comes out. Do seem to be a lot of parts. I'm with Drew. This could be Italeri kind of upping their game.
I mean, I'm immediately looking at the breakdown and seeing there is room for an F3 there if they want to.
Oh yes, absolutely. And why not?
In terms of the stores, they're saying, is it correct for a GR4? Well, yes. All there is extra parts for clearly Luftwaffe and Italian ones coming down the way with HARM missiles and JDAMs. There's nothing wrong with the stores in there whatsoever. There appears to be, from what I can see, there's Paveway 4s there and Sidewinders. So basically, Paveway 4s and Sidewinders, it's perfectly fine for a GR4. And you've got the separate RWR on the fin, which means that they will be clearly doing an Italian and German one with the bigger, fatter radar warning receivers on the fin, and possibly blanking it off for an F3 at some point. So to me, this is rapidly starting to look like a kit I have got a massive interest in, from initially not being that it's 30-second scale. I don't build 30-second scale, but as we discussed last week, a Tornado isn't a very big airplane.
Yeah.
It's virtually no bigger than an F-16, really.
Let me correct you there, Drew. You don't normally build 30-second scale.
No, I don't.
No.
What, have I been? All right. Have I been sort of nominated? Have I?
Yeah, I think. No, I can't do it. I got a zillion one things here, but I
haven't got
agree.
anything.
Right. Well, you can't build aircraft. You're not allowed to. So
yes, it would appear.
You're still on the aircraft naughty step. But,
but this is, having built the Revell kit and sort of gone to town on that a little bit, seeing this all in the box really appeals to me. And seeing the finished model, there isn't anything about that picture of the finished model that makes you think, well, that doesn't look quite right. It looks flawless.
The thing is, the nose cone looks bang on.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
absolutely smack on. Yeah,
there is the Tornado nose is incredibly complex in terms of how subtle the shape changes.
Yeah, actually, it's incredibly simple.
Yeah,
just to be the Tornado nose cone is two cones.
Yeah.
Just blended through. What catches people out is that because the nose cone actually goes onto the aircraft at an angle, people miss the fact that the nose cone is actually symmetrical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's perfectly symmetrical all round. It's just these two cones, which people have just repeatedly completely failed to capture.
I was going to say, more kits have got it wrong than have got it right over the decade.
Basically, I'm trying to think of kits that have got it right and coming up blank.
Monogram 72nd scale kit was one of the better.
Better attempts. Hasegawa got the shapes right, but the size is completely wrong.
There's too short.
Italeri's 72nd scale one from the 1980s wasn't bad, actually. Wasn't bad.
I think Revell's they stuffed it up a little bit as well, didn't they?
Revell stuffed it up because it was like a weirdly ogive shape. It didn't have any of the kind of, like I say, literally two cones blended through with a reflex.
One person that did get it right was Sir Tim of Perry.
Yeah,
Sir Timothy of Perry. He managed to get this shape right. Hindenburger tanks to High J. God. He gets quite exercised by the idea of the name.
Oh, don't call him James, for goodness sake.
That's Did I have 1,500 tanks in? I didn't quite catch it.
Yes, it does. Let me just call them back up again.
See, I'm using phrases like 1,500 and 2,250 correctly, Jamie. Just if you're watching,
yeah. No, it does. It has the Gert big tanks. I can see him.
No, I'm looking to check if there's any 1,500s there. That's what I'm checking. No, I see 2,250.
They're just stock tanks, aren't they? They're just small ones.
Although they're the big tanks. They're 2,250s.
Yeah, are they? So they're
the
small ones.
They're 2,250s. You can tell them because they've got the symmetrical rear fins.
Yeah,
and they're much bigger.
I'm looking on this on a very small screen, so I can't really see it. But yes, it looks magnificent. It looks absolutely and a real step up from the 104 in terms of.
Hopefully, we will be getting a copy very, very soon, and then we will be giving it a real big, in-depth look at, as we are also hoping to do with the Zvezda Hercules at some stage. And in fact, I am lining up Drew and Jen to actually do a special Interesting Modeling Co. live program on that. So when they both get copies, is comparing notes, and we're going to do a live show with the pair of them without me or you, Spencer. You know, just like we're going to teach these people to fly by themselves. Honestly, can't hold their hands all the time.
Are you going to moderate?
I'll introduce.
We're going to get a bell.
We both get on with it. So right,
we'll just heckle from the sidelines. That's how it works.
No changes there then.
Any other business?
do not think so.
No, nothing springs to mind.
It's worth pointing out. I did mention this yesterday during my solo flight that we are now coming up with ideas for the Festival of Modelling over that weekend. We're starting to come up with a loose plan of action for that weekend. So those who've stuck with us over the summer, wondering what we're doing for next month, we are starting to formulate ideas and formulate plans.
Do you know what the thing that the problem we have now is essentially we have an 8-hour broadcast window for each day. That's what we're allocated in terms of the streaming service. It's trying to fit everything in now. It's not like we're kind of like, oh, can we kind of like stretch that out a bit. We have to build in a certain amount of contingency in between live broadcasts because we have to bring people in, get everything set up, and yada yada yada. But honestly, it's got to the stage where, unfortunately, I've actually had to turn down a couple of people because we don't have the time.
We were looking at how are we going to be able to stretch this out for the amount of time, and now we're looking at we're going to have to be very, very disciplined with time usage.
Yeah. So unfortunately, to those who may not make it for the demos, certainly you are invited to take part in the socials that we'll be doing at the end of each day, which is going to be literally the virtual kind of. The virtual Holiday Inn bar, I think, is a good way of putting it.
I think also we're kind of hoping, we haven't actually spoken of it yet, but we're kind of hoping this could be the start of something because we don't know what 2021 holds yet, and so there may well be a case of we have to run, we will look at running a small festival.
Let's put it this way. I was thinking the other night, do you know what? I think kind of like 6 months after this one, doing another one in the middle of the year. Yeah, we'll do it. Let's get this one. Let's get this one first. And iron it all out.
Let's judge the success of this one, but it's starting to come together really well, I think, in terms of plans and schedules.
Yeah.
As far as tonight goes, this is the first time we've done a 3-person sort of. So we'd be really interested in people's feedback on how this has gone tonight. It's a bit more disciplined than the Wednesday one, but I made my pitch to be included tonight and was graciously included in proceedings. We'd like to know how you feel about it overall.
Yeah. Because I think it's worth pointing out that the Interesting Model Co is a team effort. The team of people is the 3 of us, but we have got other people. Jen is a notable inclusion in this, although she's not she kind of comes in and out. So obviously she'll be part and parcel of what happens over that weekend. But the Interesting Modelling Co is essentially the 3 of us anyway, isn't it? So from that point of view, it makes sense to sort of bring things in and all of that, and we've obviously tried to sort of do that over the summer. But I think it works well. And as we've spoken about, and we spoke about on Wednesday, we're all bringing something different to the table each time. We're all bringing.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's working for me. But what I don't want the Sunday night show to become a muddle, like the kind of casual affair that the Wednesday one is.
No,
I think it needs to be more disciplined, but I want to know if people think that having a third person on the Sunday night show fits in with that more disciplined sort of, I mean, I've got a plan up in front of me of tonight's show. I suspect you guys have as well. Able to read it.
I thought it worked particularly well tonight, I have to say. Absolutely.
But I think that needs a sort of external feedback from the viewer.
Absolutely. Well, you know where to reach us, people, on Facebook, on Twitter as well, because we're broadcasting to both platforms tonight. I think for the festival, we might actually even branch out onto YouTube as well. So
onto YouTube,
yes. So we got one comment here. It works. Dave Fleming says it works. Thank you, Dave. Well, I think it just remains for us on a Sunday night, which I think we're all kind of looking towards the week ahead and with a certain amount of trepidation, wondering which way the pendulum's going to swing. So I think, I know. So I think it just remains for us, all 3 of us, to just say, stay safe, stay out of trouble, do your best to be a good, kind, considerate person when you are out and about.
Indeed.
I will not be here on Wednesday evening because I have a job and I have to work late this week.
Well, I have a job as well. That was a bit barbed. Drew Manton will not be coming back now.
Currently, I don't. So,
He twisted the knife in there, didn't he?
he did. But I do
I
think
would
we've
say
all.
that came out wrong, but I just wanted to gauge the reaction.
But,
So.
Right.
but I think we already have ideas for our discussion for Wednesday night.
Yes,
I think,
yes.
don't we?
I think it's going to be about friends who stab you in the back live on the internet. So
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
I think we may well be talking about writing, authors, and
Yes, we will. Yes, absolutely.
and inspiration from
And apparently writing me out of the show.
Yeah,
and how we're about to write Drew Manton out of the
you wrote
interesting
yourself
modelling.
out. You wrote yourself out, mate.
It was all going so well, and then he completely blew it at the last minute.
Absolutely. One encore too many. Right.
It
On
was
that
a
note,
spectacular shot in the foot.
everybody, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and tonight we're going to leave you with this.